President Ramaphosa is a guest of honour at the 70th Republic Day in India. He's on a state visit to the country where he's held talks with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Our correspondent in the country, Neha Poonia, spoke to us earlier about today's proceedings.
Neha, thank you very much indeed for your time. Let's talk about this parade. Any firsts this year? Anything new?
Absolutely. We had a South African leader here for the first time since Nelson Mandela. So that was, of course, the big headline from the Republic Day parade in New Delhi. The other big firsts we saw were many new artillery guns on display when you had all of those various armed contingents marching down Rajpath. You also had a woman officer participating in one of the bike stunts that are the big draw on the Republic Day parade, and also a lady officer leading a contingent of 144 men. And signing off the list of firsts, you also had an entirely women contingent of security personnel marching as well. But as important as the firsts are, it's also important to note why this is important for us. This is the last time that Prime Minister Modi attended a Republic Day parade before elections this year. That's also why this is so crucial.
So lots of firsts there this year. Give us a sense of the importance of Republic Day, Neha. My understanding is that it's an occasion to, I guess, commemorate the values of your democracy and the Republic, as well as, I guess, an occasion to reaffirm the commitment of liberty and fraternity.
Absolutely. This is the 70th Republic Day that India is celebrating, and it marks the day that we became the kind of democracy we are today, with pluralistic values, with a very inclusive mindset, and a constitution that guarantees every citizen of this country equal rights, certain fundamental rights. And it's also a moment to display our patriotism, wear it on our sleeves, and cheer loudly as all those armed contingents that protect our borders, protect the country, come to New Delhi to show us what it is that they do every day. It's also a moment to appreciate the defense capabilities of the country, because that's what the Republic Day parade is. It's essentially India putting its military might on display. All our latest weaponry, our armory, is marched down that long stretch from the President's estate to the India Gate. And that's, of course, a huge draw. And the most important, of course, being the fly past that we see, which marks the culmination of the Republic Day parade.
Yeah.
That's hugely important, not just in terms of the spectacle that you get to witness in the skies, but also as a reminder that India's firepower is not just on the ground, but also in its skies.
Yeah. Neha, let's just talk about the relationship, the current relationship between South Africa and India. And we can just delve a little bit in terms of the history. And my understanding is that it's really anchored by a deep and shared history of friendship and solidarity. Give us the history.
Absolutely. Of course, it dates back to the 1800s when India's father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi, went to South Africa as a very young barrister. And that's where he first experienced the racial prejudice that was being inflicted on the people of South Africa. And that's essentially where his non-violent struggle against colonial rule first began. That's sort of one umbilical link that connects both countries. And once apartheid ended in South Africa, India was also one of the first countries to recognize the newly formed democratic government. They're both part of the non-aligned movement as well. They're currently part of many international forums like BRICS, the G20. You've got the the Indian Ocean Rims Association. So essentially, it is a relationship that's anchored in a shared past, a shared struggle of colonial rule, of overcoming that kind of oppression, and sort of a very forward-looking approach when it comes to how both countries want to tackle the challenges of the 21st century.
What about tourism, Neha? Does South Africa strike a chord with the Indian traveller?
Absolutely. It's one of the most popular destinations as far as tourism in Africa is concerned. Of course, the Indian government wanting to do more on that regard. There has been a conversation around ensuring there's direct connectivity between the two countries, something that we've still not been able to address. But we're being told that is something that the two leaders discussed, President Ramaphosa and Prime Minister Modi, when they met earlier this week. And we're being told that is something they're going to try and resolve in the days ahead. But of course, South Africa, very, very popular. A lot of celebrities are known to go to South Africa for their holidays. It's also sort of picking up with the average Indian tourist. But of course, a lot of potential still remains. And I'm sure when there's direct connectivity, we'll see a lot more Indians coming to South Africa first.
So this is the second day of a two-day state visit by President Cyril Ramaphosa. What's on the cards for today?
The big event today was the Republic Day Parade, which he attended earlier this morning. He was accompanied by the Indian President, by the Indian President's bodyguards who sit on horseback. They escorted him down Rajpath, and then he, of course, witnessed the entire military parade. After that, he's going to be attending an at-home at the President's estate, which is essentially high tea, where politicians from both sides of the spectrum, the opposition and those in government, converge at the President's estate. There is a lot of free-flowing conversation. This event not really open to the media, so as you can imagine, there'll be a lot of candid conversations taking place, but that's the last event for the day, after which he flies out later this evening.
Neha, how are commentators summing up this visit by President Cyril Ramaphosa? What are you hearing on the ground?
A lot of people have welcomed this particular aspect of the visit, where we saw the two leaders signing that 3-year action plan. It's the first time, perhaps, that we've seen a foreign dignitary come to India, and we've not seen a bunch of memorandums of understandings being signed. Instead, there was one document that's all the two countries exchanged, and that sort of tells you where ties are currently. Because as far as South Africa and India are concerned, like we discussed, they have a rich history of bilateral engagement. They've been strategic partners since 1997. A lot of MOUs have already been in place, but the challenge was ensuring action and deliverables on those memorandums of understanding. So that's what we saw in this particular visit. Analysts and experts say that it's a good start, because bilateral ties with South Africa had stagnated during Jacob Zuma's rule because of the political uncertainty in your country. But the hope now is that with a time-bound approach that this particular document brings to the table, we'll see more realization of the potential of bilateral ties.